faut la centrer.
L'eau est derrière, là, mettez-vous là où il faut. Il est ouvert.
December 5. I commit Calypso to the perilous Drake Passage that lies between the extreme tip of South America and the Antarctic Peninsula. For safety, we depend on space-age techniques. Directly from 3 satellites, we receive pictures indicating storms and the ice situation in our area.
This is Calypso. Good morning, RC. We read you loud and clear. Over.
Another satellite, at an altitude of 22,000 miles, connects us by radio to the outside world.
On a une photo de satellite très intéressante.
Pictures from a weather satellite show that a storm is moving westward in the Drake Passage between Cape Horn and the Antarctic Peninsula.
Et la dépression blanche qu'on avait hier ici se déplace vers l'ouest. Le vent
20 nœuds, commandant, alors qu'hier il y avait 40-45 nœuds.
Alors, je décide de traverser sans attendre.
On va prendre quand même une dépression, il y en a une à l'ouest qui est...
As there is usually such a storm in the Drake every 3 days, and our crossing will take 4, there is no way to avoid 24 hours of bad weather.
On est sûr d'avoir 24
I decide to go. The wind, about 20 knots, is not yet alarming, but the swell is rising and the clouds are low. The whole atmosphere is threatening. The albatrosses are at home here, but at the approach of these polar seas, I feel alien.
J'ai l'impression que ça se gâte. Le vent force régulièrement. C'est bien ce que prévoyait la météo. Mon Dieu, qu'est-ce qu'on va déguster?
In the afternoon of December 7th, the wind turns to southeast and reaches 45 knots. The sea is rough, but I am happy to feel my Calypso, although overloaded with equipment and supplies, ride up the waves like a seagull. I had promised a traditional bottle of rum to whomever would spot the first iceberg. At dawn on the fourth day, Roger Bruno and Albert Falco win the prize. These mountains of ice may be majestic, but they are dangerous for navigation. Icebergs and ice blocks drift by, one after another, endlessly. Pushed by westerly winds and currents, some of them have probably circled all around the Antarctic continent. The oldest ones, half melted, having capsized several times, present fantastic shapes and extraordinary shades of blue. I decide to drop anchor in a bay of King George Island.
La barre est 5 à gauche.
0.
La barre est 0. La barre est à 0.
It is snowing when we land in Leopard Seal Cove. With us is Dr. Raymond Duguy of the Paris Museum of Natural History. How long has it been since this cabin was visited last? This was obviously a meteorological station. After the explorers came the scientists. Weather observations were essential for climate studies and to safeguard ships that ventured into this region. People have suffered here to serve mankind, but today their work is done far better by satellites without risking human lives. Snow has penetrated everywhere, but here are mattresses, books once read, cans of food still unspoiled, and on a table, condiments left behind. For 13 years, the building has been unattended, yet it is as if it were only yesterday. Antarctica preserves everything, but one feels that here, life hangs only by a thread. Nearby, on a wind-swept promontory of ice and rocks, a line of tombs marked by weathered wooden crosses.
Les noms sont gravés.
Four young Englishmen lost their lives here. The crosses evoke all who have died for knowledge in Antarctica. Pensive, we walk down toward the deserted shore. In spite of her modern equipment, today Calypso appears to me very fragile. December 9th, weather is improving. From the helicopter pad newly assembled on the stem of Calypso, I take off with our pilot, Bob McKeegan. 200 years ago, Captain Cook wrote that nowhere had he observed so much life as in these polar seas. That life, what has become of it today? I am happy to find that entire islands are still inhabited by immense colonies of penguins by the hundreds of thousands. Out in the open sea, I spot a large group of seals. On my way back, I have the incredible luck to spot a couple of whales. They are humpback whales. La baleine, droit devant! Alerted by radio, the crew watches for the whales. Hunted without mercy, the humpbacks have become very rare.
Baleine, droit devant!
During our entire voyage, we will see no more of them. It's a mother whale and her calf that is perhaps 4 or 5 months old, but still a baby in need of protection. Before she disappears, our whale extends one of her long pectoral flippers, as if to wave goodbye. The beach presents a vision out of Dante, an appalling ossuary. It was on land that former whalers cut up their victims. Hundreds of whale jaws, a multitude of ribs and vertebrae are scattered on the ground. We become amateur paleontologists. Under the supervision of Dr. Duguy, we attempt to reconstruct the skeleton of a big blue whale. The skull alone weighs more than 800 pounds. The whole team is needed to move it. For Dr. Duguy, it is a gigantic jigsaw puzzle. The rostrums of the upper jaws average 15 feet in length. These animals, the largest that ever existed, are beautiful, peaceful, and intelligent. Their last survivors are still ingloriously slaughtered by butchers to be transformed into oil and food for dogs and cats.
Encore une vertèbre. Attention les pieds.
This is our whale, almost a fossil, a 90-foot monument to the folly of man. It's a big thrill on board as Philippe, Bonissi, Cole, Sumian, and Giacoletto put on their new dry suits for their first Antarctic dive.
Vérifiez la pression, Yvan.
Other mammals that return to the sea are protected from cold by a thick layer of blubber. As a substitute for fat, we inflate our outer skin with air. Calypso is the first ship ever to carry an expedition devoted exclusively to the undersea exploration of the Antarctic waters. Philippe will film all our dives and comment on them.
To me, the mountains of ice are imposing, but somehow fixed, impassive, sterile. Could it be the same in the water? The cold that petrifies the sea, has it also killed all life within? The cold. I have been thinking of it since our departure.
Faisais comme ça. Ok.
We dive in fairly muddy water. The iceberg is stranded. Winds and waves drive the ice blocks across the shoals like huge plows, digging large furrows of destruction. I think that all the flat bottoms around Antarctica undergo that plowing to depths of at least 300 fathoms. The red algae gives us a waving, inviting welcome. Along a cliff, down to 100 feet, we discover an unexpected profusion of life. Here, beauty becomes delicate and warm. We glide among motley bouquets, amazed, filled with joy. It seems incredible that this icy water can nourish such abundance. What a contrast to the surface, so stark, so barren, so simple.
A group of penguins are drifting slowly on an eroded ice block.
Je prends un bain de soleil.
This raft of ice is deeply furrowed, indicating that it has been long used by the penguins as a hunting base. They have been traveling aboard all winter long, but as the mating season approaches, their breeding instinct compels them to swim back to their rookeries. They swim like porpoises. With the coming of the Antarctic summer, the ice breaks up and reveals the shore. The penguins, of an age to mate, from 4 to 12 years old, return in spite of the breakers to the very location where they were born. Because of their oneness with the sea, and because their powerful wings allow them fantastic vertical leaps, they are able to make their way through the surf without being crushed. There is no segregation here. The chin-strap penguins, the gentoos with their red beaks, the adelies in their dinner jackets, live together in peaceful coexistence. The males arrive before the females. Sitting on their nests of stones, they vocalize madly to attract their mates. Penguins are essentially monogamous. Most of them remain faithful to their partners from one mating season to the next. The couples part when they go to sea. Now, after an 8-month separation, the female identifies her mate by his voice. The reunions are as passionate as the courtship rituals of the new fiancés.
Il y a déjà des petits. Ils sont en avance.
Oui, les pauvres.
Some of the eggs have already hatched. The mother feeds her chick pre-digested shrimp. He seems to like it. Males and females take turns feeding their progeny and fishing at sea. Newborn penguins are cold-blooded. Parents, whose temperature is 100 degrees, incubate their young as carefully as they do their eggs. To keep feeding all the hungry little ones, the adults must go to the sea. On the slopes, there is an endless coming and going. The sharp-toothed leopard seal, one of their few enemies, awaits them at the water's edge. It's only along the shoreline in turbid water that the leopard seal has a chance to seize a penguin by surprise. Falco keeps the peace. There will be no hunting today. After weeks of fasting on a nest, a penguin is famished.
Quelle vitesse!
A fishing penguin is difficult to follow. At times, these small birds, weighing only 10 to 12 pounds, can dart up to 25 miles an hour. That sprightliness in the water makes them practically invulnerable.
Ça va être
Philippe and his companions depart in a Zodiac to film the penguins in slow motion underwater as they hunt for krill.
The krill, upon which penguins feed, as do seals and whales, is a mass of innumerable pink shrimps. They move swiftly, using only their tiny abdominal fins, and I can hardly keep up with them. The Antarctic produces over 100 million tons of krill every year. We swim in what used to be a whale pasture.
By satellite on board Calypso, I hold an international press conference.
Encore 10 minutes d'antenne.
What I was saying is that the abundance of life in the Antarctic at the level of primary production of the vegetable production is enormous. And the first beneficiaries of this production, with only one intermediary, which was the krill, the mass of little shrimps, red shrimps, which abound in this area, were the whales. Now, these whales have been decimated. There is only 6% of them left today, about. So that a tremendous amount of unused food is now used by less interesting forms of life like starfish, for example. So that because of the poor management of man with the whales, there is a continuous waste of biological resources in the ocean today. Over.
It is the time of the skua. By instinct, penguins fear anything that comes from the sky. With the piercing eyes of an eagle, a skua soars over the nurseries, looking for an abandoned chick or a sick one. Our Adelie penguin has protected his baby courageously. The skua, having been repelled several times, now cautiously attempts to grab another chick, one that had moved away to die. He's forced to give it up as the penguin, with fierce eyes and his neck feathers erect, drives him from his prey. The skua is persistent, but his perseverance is no match for the penguin. Michel Laval and Dr. Duguy have gone to search for fossils on King George Island. 2 skuas charge them. The men fear for their eyes.
Michel, un autre.
Hé, là. Il nous attaque?
Non, non, ce n'est pas une attaque. Il voulait nous intimider.
The dive attacks were only meant to chase away the intruders and protect the eggs. After the failure of her intimidation maneuvers, the female skua now sits firmly on her nest to defend it. Michel is responsive to the bird's distress. With gentleness and quiet persuasion, he tries to convey his good intentions. The bird calms down, gaining some confidence. Under her breast feathers, Michel can feel her still pounding heart. Here, at the frontier of Antarctica's lonely wastes, 2 different species, man and skua, brought together by chance, have come to tolerate each other. Michel leaves, knowing too well that such moments are merely brief exceptions to the laws of nature. In difficult weather conditions, the helicopter delivers me to a barren hill. I have been informed by radio that Michel Laval has found fossils here.
Alors, on a trouvé des merveilles. Hein.
Vous avez trouvé des choses?
C'est terrible.
À toi.
Il y a celle-là, là, cette feuille, là, il y a une petite branche que l'on voit là, et cette feuille qui est ici, dont on voit également l'empreinte.
Ah oui. Et on voit la branche.
Ouais, l'empreinte est également ici. Là, il y a exactement donc la même feuille, puisque c'est la partie femelle. Et alors derrière, ici, il y a également des feuilles qui sont très évidentes, là, qui ressemblent à une sorte de feuille de...
It is impossible that plants and trees could ever have grown in such frozen soil. However, here are fossilized leaves. They bear a striking resemblance to those found today in the forests of Patagonia. 170 million years ago, this land was part of Gondwana land, a supercontinent. It was connected to India and South America. When that supercontinent broke up, Antarctica drifted toward the pole, where it was covered with ice. Without warning, within a couple of minutes, a furious wind struck us. It now reaches 80 miles an hour. The stern anchor does not hold. The ship is drifting. We could be carried to shore and wrecked on the rocks. We must act fast.
Dépêchons-nous, où est la bosse? L'arrière, vite! Tous à l'arrière! L'encre est crochée. On chasse!
Le train, ils ne vient plus!
N'arrive pas! Est-ce qu'il y a du jus sur le train? Nom de Dieu!
Merde!
Plage arrière! Essayez de remonter l'ancre avec la grue!
The anchor winch is frozen. Our only chance is to try to use the crane.
Électricien! Pour la grue!
Ça vient, passerelle! Mais pas vite!
À monter! Stop!
On n'est pas en sécurité.
Obviously, Leopard Bay is not a safe anchorage. We must move out as soon as possible. With Captain Bougaron, we decide that a better shelter will be found in Whalers Bay, Deception Island. The storm abated as fast as it arose. Our helicopter escorts us to Deception Island of Sinister Enow. It served as a base for the whalers at the time of the big massacres. But about 30 years ago, with the advent of factory ships, big floating slaughterhouses, Deception was abandoned. So enters a narrow passage flanked with sheer cliffs that whalers called Neptune's Bellows, Dragon's Mouth, or Hell's Gate. Caldera, a vast volcanic crater dug out by a tremendous explosion and invaded by the sea. The volcano is still active, about to explode at any moment. Between mountains of rocks exhaling fumes, glaciers dirtied with ashes slowly flow to the sea. Under the snow, hell smolders. It is the improbable wedding of fire and ice. Through clouds of steam, we perceive the ruins of a Chilean research station, completely destroyed in 1969 by volcanic explosions. There have been 3 explosive eruptions on the island during the last 5 years, and each time marine charts had to be modified. A climbing team led by Michel Laval has been improvised. Our aim is to reach and explore the deep fracture in a glacier that was blown up during the 1969 eruption. Michel Laval is an experienced mountain climber. The others, including Philippe, are novices.
Our progress is difficult on granulous, red, lukewarm lava. Everywhere snow is melting and the soil is streaming with water that turns it into mud. Within the cracks it is so hot that water is vaporized. The entire side of the mountain appears to be covered with volcanic vomit.
Avec ce sacré brouillard, on est complètement paumé. Tu crois que c'est par là?
Je crois, mais j'en suis pas certain. Dans cette purée de pois.
The fog makes it difficult for Michel Laval to find the right approach to the glacier.
C'est bon, allons-y.
Attends. D'après moi, on devrait longer le versant à gauche du monticule.
Away from the warm lava flows, it gets cold, as the mist comes down from the summits and engulfs us. Visibility is poor, but the subdued light hurts our eyes. The cold is becoming intense.
Quand je mets mes lunettes, j'y vois plus rien. C'est le mirage blanc.
Sur le croquis, c'est à droite du glacier.
Dis donc, il faudrait pas qu'on se perde.
On va s'encorder.
D'accord.
Using our compass, we tried to avoid a field of cracks on the south that I had spotted from the helicopter. Michel, first on the rope, constantly probes the snow for hidden crevasses. Here the glacier must be at least 100 feet thick, and the pattern of the cracks is treacherously irregular. We are apprehensive, tense. One more crevasse, much wider and deeper than the others. Michel probes for a long time, then he goes over, and immediately secures me. We follow Michel, doing exactly as he tells us. A feeling of malevolent spirits around us, of imminent drama, pervades me. If only that fog would lift. We descend toward the roots of the glacier. It is satanic, an inferno that has frozen over, exhaling fumes and steams, about to explode again. The flank of the glacier, blown out during the last explosion, displays layers of volcanic ash that alternate with the snows of successive Antarctic winters. Like the growth rings in a tree trunk, these layers allow us to date past eruptions. They also indicate all the climatic changes as far back as 1670. It will be 2 a.m. when we return to Calypso, exhausted.
The next day aboard Calypso, it is Christmas Eve. Quand il est mort, le poète. When the poet died. When the poet died, they buried his star in a great field of wheat. All his friends shed their tears. Michel was our poet, and this was to be his last Christmas. December 28. Michel Laval lost his life in an accident, instantly killed by the tail rotor of the helicopter, while on the ground close to the volcanic crevasse of Deception. Nature reclaimed him on the border of the unknown. A dreadful day. Throughout his life, Michel sought new horizons. For him, the world was to marvel upon and to love. Calypso's flag is at half-mast. It is my painful task to bring Michel's body back. In my sorrow, I was inclined to drop everything. But Philippe, who had become Michel's friend, offered to remain on the island of fire and ice and to continue the exploration until my return. Only his decision could bring some warmth back into my heart. For 9 days, the shore team, left to themselves on that accursed island, will establish camp in the ruins of a British base and make extensive exploration dives all around Deception. Michel had been captivated by Antarctica, its rich seas, its waste of ice, its transparent beauty. All that lies ahead of us will be inseparable from the memory of Michel Laval. These majestic living torpedoes are orcas, nicknamed killer whales, the most powerful predators of the seas. In Antarctica, large whales have become exceedingly rare. However, packs of killer whales still thrive. Each closely knit family includes several females, offspring from 2 generations, and a single large male, the leader and master, identified by his huge dorsal fin. They feed on fish and squid. Occasionally, they enrich their menu with seals. But they certainly don't deserve the epithet killer more than any other animal.
Ah, le voilà. Derrière les petits rochers là-bas.
January 16, we proceed to the Melchior Archipelago for refueling, essential before we venture further south.
On la coste?
Oui.
Our providential supply ship is the Bahia Aguirre of the Argentinian Navy.
Attention! Affole doucement. Doucement. Dépend. Restez pas dessous. Sur la barre, maintenant. Reste sur le bord, c'est bon.
In a disquieting fog, our Calypso heads for regions that are increasingly unsafe. Progressing south, we have crossed the Antarctic Circle 200 years and 2 days after British explorer James Cook first passed it in 1773. January 23, NASA warns us that towards the south, the Bellingshausen Sea is frozen 120 nautical miles further north than last year. Fragments of ice increasingly obstruct our course, but weather is fine, and we all want to reach Seal Country and dive under the ice pack there. Now we are about to slip into a narrow channel flanked by cliffs of ice. 3 a.m., the break of day. The low sun rays play through layers of polar air and create mirages and incandescent glows. But the blocks of ice that impede our progress are not mirages. Launches are dispatched ahead in an attempt to push the largest out of our way.
Restez pas dessous. Un petit coup en arrière.
The observation chamber in front of our stem is made of thick steel and acts as a bumper. But I fear for our props and rudders that are not protected.
Attention, à gauche un peu. attention à la gaffe.
Dégage-toi.
Bon avis, on vous aide. Accélère, par exemple, accélère.
C'est bon. Attention, Calypso arrive.
Ne vous engagez pas dessous le chaland numéro 2.
Bouge dessus, là. Viens m'aider. On est bloqué.
Unsuccessfully, we struggle against the chaos of ice that is thickening. For the first time, I become worried. What if Calypso became surrounded with ice to the point of being unable to move? I think of Shackleton, whose sturdy ship, the Endurance, was crushed like a nut in 1915.
On n'y arrivera jamais, ils vont trop vite.
I send the helicopter on a reconnaissance flight. Bob McKeegan and Philippe will look for a way out of the trap. They keep radio contact with the bridge.
Double back to the left.
La barrière que nous avons devant nous là actuellement, est-ce que vers le sud on peut la contourner? À quelle distance, toi?
Philippe has located a navigable passage. Calypso and the helicopter will rendezvous near a very old iceberg grounded in the channel.
Sur le gros iceberg, commandant?
Oui, mais on passera à droite.
At last, we have found an access to free water, sprinkled only with whiskey ice. We all breathe a bit easier. We have gotten off lightly, with only a few scratches on the hull. This magic bay, luminous, bathed with crystalline water, is seal country. Calypso is made fast to the pack as to a wharf in a harbor. Yet I am concerned. The sea is freezing. Our launches try to churn loose the ice freezing around Calypso that could lock her in within a few hours. We must depart before nightfall. These improvised sleds, loaded with diving equipment, make me feel like we are playing explorers of old. The ice pack is cracking. We may not come back walking. We may need boats. To achieve such round, smooth holes, the Weddell seals gnaw through ice 6 feet thick.
Alors, il y en a un qui était là, et l'autre qui est là-bas.
Malade, t'as enrhumé.
Voilà, mon petit père, pour la postérité. C'est là tout seul pour se faire. C'est un jouet d'enfance, ça. On peut essayer les deux, hein. C'est un peu vite. Essayons les deux.
We will slightly enlarge 2 holes. Philippe and Simeon will be able to dive through one of them, and in case of trouble, come back up through the other.
Non plus.
Weddell seals are fantastic divers. They are able to stay underwater up to an hour, to reach depths of 2,000 feet, and to swim under the ice for more than 5 miles. It's not quite the case with us.
Ça d'abord, hein. Faut qu'ils en arrivent.
Moi, je pense que sur la chair, hein, c'est carrément.
Sur le néoprène.
Non, sur la chair, parce que mon néoprène est côté. Je vais mettre dessus.
The water below is dark, frightening. A strong current could sweep us far under the pack, away forever from these openings to life. Under the pack, seal songs endlessly resound. A Weddell seal gracefully slips into the water. I wonder how the seals are able to find their breathing holes again when they come up from their 2,000-foot dives. I know they have sonar systems emitting modulated sounds that compose the songs we hear. However, I cannot imagine any creature living at ease in this forbidding realm.
I am eager to take down the diving saucer to explore the deeper polar waters. It's the first time ever that a submarine has been used in Antarctica.
Allô, passerelle? Le cap?
Falco will pilot the saucer while I film.
Ok, passerelle.
At my disposal, I have a remote-controlled exterior camera mounted on a tripod. We dive alongside an iceberg to the bottom, where it is grounded at a depth of 1,000 feet. As we reach the bottom, I am struck by the abundance of life. We advance through clouds of small fish. Immense starfish with multiple arms litter the rocks and the sediment. Probably dazzled by our lights, small fish bump into the starfish, get ensnared, and will be devoured. A strange, thin crab, all legs, proceeds as if in slow motion. He looks like a tall, bodiless spider. Our old friend the octopus seems to be as much at ease in these cold waters as in the Mediterranean. A blue fish with white and black spots, like an enameled shell. Falco checks to see if it is alive.
Vous savez ce que c'est, cette chose-là?
Ça alors? J'en sais rien.
This incredible creature is a coelenterate. The strange ball attached to the rock by a filament is both a mouth and a digestive tract. Its worm-like extension, which measures over 6 feet, is covered with venomous cells which paralyze shrimp before our eyes. It twists and curls around its prey and contracts slowly to bring the victims to its mouth. It's terrifying. A jelly-like creature swinging like a Christmas bell. A pink snailfish waves lazily, digging out small prey from the diatomic ooze. out of the depth, the favorite diet of Weddell seals, squid. The saucer's lights are reflected by pigments within their translucent bodies, which are probably fluorescent. This is the first time that live squid have been observed in the Antarctic. Another species of squid with wings of transparent gauze. And now the icefish, the elusive and almost legendary icefish which has no red cells in its blood, therefore no hemoglobin to combine with oxygen and convey it. It is dissolved oxygen only that is carried by the colorless liquid pumped by its heart. The icefish has never been filmed before in its natural environment. When the temperature goes below 28 degrees, the icefish releases into its blood a special protein, much like a driver puts antifreeze in his radiator. The teeming world we live below thrives at the very edge of life. In water 1 or 2 degrees colder, nothing would survive.
On est resté 4 heures au fond. Ça passe vite.
Falco aims upward the jet nozzles that propel the saucer, thus indicating our location to Calypso, so we can be hoisted out of a rapidly freezing sea. Summer is at an end, and we know that the season changes here are drastic. But we want to go on with our work for as long as we can. En route to Esperanza, Hope Bay, at the entrance of the Weddell Sea, Calypso makes her way between islands, reefs, and icebergs.
Cette espèce de yo-yo.
Ah oui.
Like a yo-yo, a hummock of ice bobs, oscillating in resonance with a long swell.
Un véritable yo-yo. C'est curieux. Avec le courant, il dérive vers le sud.
Eh bien,
Le passage n'est pas très large.
il faudra passer à droite.
It's snowing. The temperature, both in the sea and in the air, has dropped abruptly. Studying the charts, with regret I prepare our return. I did not suspect that this first snowfall would soon turn into a fierce blizzard. In the meantime, Philippe and Falco organize the last dives before the onslaught of winter. Nobody on board yet realizes the urgency of our situation.
Raté. Tous sur lui. Sur celle-là. C'est vrai. C'était bien pris, là, oui. Il va encore se planter. Il a compris. En pleine fois.
The Zodiac sails away on the sea blanketed by a snow that does not melt. As I see them go, I feel vaguely apprehensive.
We land on an ice floe already occupied by a few young ones. As children do, they play catch with the snow as it falls. Equipped for our dive, we walk across the ice raft to the water. An unusual vision in the Antarctic. Red penguins. The snow is falling even more heavily. It is with relief that I escape the snow and slip into the sea. It is so cold that snow sticks to the camera. It does not even melt upon contact with the water. We swim under a translucent canopy between columns of ice in a world with no shadows. Soon the penguins join us and offer a fantastic display of underwater agility.
The divers are back aboard. A long, smooth swell is up now with no wind, a bad omen. February 9, the barometer is falling and the birds are flying away. All of a sudden, the wind has come up. In 5 minutes, it reaches 65 miles per hour. The wind is pushing the icebergs towards the entrance of the deep narrow bay, and they are all drifting toward Calypso. A gigantic mass of ice, many times the weight of Calypso, is on a collision course with us. And there is nothing we can do.
Ça serait l'écoute. Répétez, répétez. Bien reçu.
I know Calypso has been severely injured. I send Falco below to assess the damage. Meanwhile, Zuena continues his futile efforts against the relentless assaults.
À la chaîne, à la chaîne.
When Falco returns, the wind is stronger than ever. And although by now it has driven most of the icebergs away from us and toward the open sea, the damage has been done.
Cassé.
À la deuxième chaise, là, à l'intérieur, là.
Falco reports that not only is the starboard propeller bent, but the shaft of the port propeller is broken.
L'arbre est sorti, ce cône est sorti sur une
It is even more serious than I thought.
L'arbre est sorti, et cassé net.
The shaft cannot be repaired.
Vous allez être obligé de venir à la gauche pour contourner.
The blizzard is just beginning and it is turning day into night. With no visibility, in waters too deep to cast an anchor, day after day we circle helplessly in the narrow bay on our single bent propeller. Without radar, we would be wrecked. On the third day, the wind goes up to 100 knots, 120 miles an hour. Already loaded with snow, Calypso is lashed by a freezing spray that makes her even heavier. At last, the storm abates, and I have my first opportunity to check out our poor ship. The deck is heavily loaded with snow and ice. All riggings are covered with thick frost. The winch is a mass of ice and most certainly could not operate. The diving saucer, unrecognizable, has been turned into a large white egg. With one injured propeller and a hole in the hull, our trip back seems very much in doubt. Calypso has a 5 degrees starboard list. I estimate she's loaded with about 30 tons of snow and ice. She's dangerously top-heavy and could possibly capsize if a storm hit her again. Meanwhile, we begin digging out our ship.
Plus de 25 tonnes. Alors, je crois qu'il faut la déblayer avant d'appareiller parce que ça met le bateau en danger. Préparez-vous pour là.
The hole in her hull, 2 feet above the waterline, is temporarily sealed. The rear anchor chain is freed. If we are to proceed at all out of this bay, the divers must perform a difficult task. They have to fasten the broken shaft so that it does not ram into the port rudder and disable us completely. From one diver to the next, signals are relayed to Zuena, who operates the winch, and the shaft is secured by a strong tackle.
Falco, ça c'était ce matin, mais cet après-midi, on voit bien que la dépression...
The depression is moving away. It is time to start the motor and leave this dismal bay. The exit of the Weddell Sea is strangely calm, an atmosphere of slumbering threat. Here, icebergs driven by unpredictable squalls and suddenly freezing seas have destroyed many ships. All at once, the face of a glacier collapses. The cliffs are undermined and cracked by the repeated freezings and thawings that occur at the end of summer. A large section of the cliff falls near Philip's zodiac, raising a mountain of water. It is time we left the coast and escaped to the open sea. Along with danger and drama, Antarctica offers us magnificent days that no one on board will ever forget.
Curieux. Oui, c'est le sphinx.
It is a great white sphinx, recalling the Egyptian monster with its human head and the body of a reclining lion. It is grounded, but if tossed by the swell, it could break up or capsize.
Soyez prudents!
One has to come close to the Sphinx to realize the enormity of its mass. It is so vast and heavy that the powerful swell breaks on it as on a coastline. The waves charge into caves at the base of the giant. 100 feet away from a concealed tunnel, the water spouts out. The entire structure is a labyrinth of passages and caves. I think of the thousands of years necessary to accumulate snow into such a gigantic block. Then, how many years of sun, of waves, of cold and of storms were needed to carve out this mass and make it what it is today?
Est-ce qu'elle tient la glace?
We will try to board the island of ice. We use the swell as a lift to attain a grasp.
Ne casse pas la gueule! Il n'y a pas de prise!
Christian is the first to climb the slippery wall. He is followed by Dominique, who then helps Raymond and me. At any moment, under inside stresses of fantastic magnitude, the colossal sculpture could explode, disintegrate into innumerable pieces, annihilating Calypso and all of us. The thought obsesses me. The iceberg is alive. I need more intimacy with the iceberg. From the Zodiac, we discover a fragile cave, an opening into the giant. At close range, one can see that the corridor reaches deep into the heart of the Sphinx. At the end of the narrow passage lies a basin of dark, therefore deep water, probably connected to the open sea. As soon as we're equipped, we slide into it. The basin extends into a vertical well irregularly shaped that leads us 60 feet below to a terrace on the flank of the iceberg. There, everywhere, the ice is corrugated by thousands of small depressions. The exact symmetry of design and embossment is incredible. The ice, filled with small air bubbles, is smooth and bright. It was the encounter of freshwater ice and salted seawater that created this improbable surface. Jutting out of the cliff, a sword of ice, a blade, transparent as crystal. A little lower, an opening gapes in the wall. Within the entrails of the Sphinx, dull cracking sounds and alarming fissures are warnings that the iceberg is under immeasurable internal stress. My curiosity is stronger than my apprehension. We are in a natural hall of mirrors. One cannot resist caressing the smooth surfaces that dazzlingly reflect our lights. We leave behind the cascading echoes of our bubbles within the palace of ice. Farther down, below a ledge, we discover sheaves of frozen air bubbles, like showers of diamonds. Dominique plays with his light, like a magician. Everything here is made of air and water, water liquid, water solid, water pure and water mixed with air, air that is trapped in microscopic bubbles, shining like pearls, stars or comets. Our light beams penetrate deep into the transparent ice, revealing the secrets of the iceberg's past. For hundreds of thousands of years, while the iceberg was still part of a glacier, every storm, every winter and summer was engraved in its heart. Now in the sea, it is a giant crystal melting under my eyes. We are witnesses to the vanishing of an eternity.
In spite of her wounds, Calypso has carried us through our greatest and most daring adventure. We were in quest of the unknown, but rediscovered what our ancestors once knew: harmony and purity on our planet. We have confirmed that the southern polar waters are the richest of the world's oceans. May this continent, the last explored by man, be the first one to be spared by man. May out of the errors of the past rise a dawn of respect and love for the free-living creatures and pristine beauty of the last virgin land on Earth, Antarctica.